Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the conflict that is taking place inside of Sudan. So, today, the U.S. military has evacuated its civilian staff members from the United States Embassy in Sudan. This is the locale of the U.S. Embassy. It sets just off the Blue Nile. Exactly its distance from the Blue Nile, from the outskirts of the compound, is essentially about a quarter of a mile. If you look at where the embassy is at, it's actually out on the outskirts of the capital, Khartoum. Again, a lot of the fighting we're seeing is taking place to the northwest. There's also fighting taking place elsewhere to the south too. But some of the heaviest fighting has been taking place near the international airport, the Ministry of Defense headquarters, and other locales inside the city itself, especially along the key bridge holds. But if you zoom in again here, this is the locale of the U.S. Embassy compound. And quite a compound indeed. In terms of size, if we switch this over to, we'll do meters, and essentially you're looking at 156 meters on the Blue Nile side, and then again from Blue Nile west is 258 meters, with numerous structures and a nice swimming pool. But it sounds like the U.S. Launched an operation with around 100 special operations forces. They could have been Marines. Difficult to say at this point. They used CH-47 Chinooks. And this is interesting because the range of the mission radius of a Chinook is around 200 or so miles. And it can go longer, further, depending on how much the aircraft is carrying. But these are going to be loaded with embassy personnel. And if you look at the distance from the U.S. Embassy to the Red Sea, you're looking at damn near 400 miles. So that's out of the range of the CH-47, with the exception of maybe like ferry range. It's possible that the CH-47's refueled near the embassy, maybe, possibly. Difficult to say. We don't know for sure. But it seems like those CH-47s did not go back to the Red Sea, and we don't even know if they initiated in the Red Sea. We know that there was also a buildup of U.S. forces in Djibouti as well. So the question is did they then proceed to another secure airfield someplace in Sudan that's not being talked about, and then flown out on a C-130s? Possibly. We just don't know yet. But all the embassy personnel are out. It sounds like there was a lull in the fighting that took place for about 24 hours. It looks like the Sudanese Air Force decided not to take to the sky. We know that U.S. aircraft were over the embassy, a variety of systems. I'm guessing they brought in a gunship, a C-130 gunship as well. Possibly, of course, drones were used. But it looks like, again, it was a successful operation in getting American personnel out of there. It looks like the French embassy also tried to evacuate. They came under fire, and they allegedly had to go back to their embassy. We don't know the status of the French forces or the French embassy personnel at this point. And look, we get a nice resort very close to the U.S. Embassy. Must be a nice, pleasant area to go and visit, considering the abject poverty that you have in Khartoum itself. Interesting. But it looks like the fighting has resumed. It looks like the Sudanese armed forces, in conjunction with possible Egyptian assets, have resumed airstrikes on the rapid support forces. Again, as we talked about yesterday, the rapid support forces are now intermingling into the civilian areas of Khartoum, in hoping they will not be struck by Egyptian or Sudanese air power. The rapid support forces really don't have the ability to maneuver outside of Khartoum because, again, it's just very open, flat terrain that would make it very, very difficult for those RSF forces, those RSF units, to, let's see if this even pulls up and it won't. I was trying to do a ground's eye view, but you can, again, kind of see how flat it is in this area, and there's no foliage, there's no trees. And again, any units moving in column of the rapid support forces, say along this roadway, would come on their attack by the Air Force of Sudan or the Egyptian Air Force as well. And again, that is why we've seen all these rapid support forces kind of converge on Khartoum, because it feels relatively somewhat safe, not entirely safe, but they feel like they can go into buildings and hide from the Egyptian and Sudanese Air Force and have a better chance at fighting in these urbanized areas against Sudanese army units. But again, it looks like the temporary lull to get embassy personnel is over with. It looks like the Sudanese armed forces have resumed airstrikes against rapid support force targets, and we are continuing to get new satellite information in that shows just how brutal and heavy the fighting is. Much of the Khartoum International Airport has been destroyed. Many of the buildings, the Defense Ministry buildings, located in the northern part of Khartoum, have been destroyed or demolished. We know that the General Command of the Sudanese Armed Forces, this building here, this is essentially the Sudanese Pentagon, has been completely obliterated. It has been gutted out and has been essentially destroyed. We don't know the status yet of the Sudanese Air Force headquarters, nor the Sudanese naval headquarters as well. It's kind of interesting how they did that. They created a boat-like building and a plane-like building. Interesting. But that is it for today. We will continue to monitor. We will continue to report on the fighting that is ongoing. Again, successful operation by the U.S. military to get its embassy personnel out of there so far. We at least have one U.S. citizen that has been killed thus far. So all in all, to get at least the embassy personnel out of there, not a bad operation by the U.S. military so far. So that's it for today. One other mention of note: there is information coming in now that the regime of Abiy Ahmed, in conjunction with Eritrea, could possibly be supporting the rapid support forces. There's discussion now that Abiy Ahmed, in conjunction with Isaias Afwerki, may have been part of the discussion process with the leadership of the rapid support forces prior to the RSF launching that attempted decapitation strike against the Sudanese armed forces, the leadership of the Sudanese armed forces. So Interesting, very interesting how the games of state are played. Obviously, again, we will continue to monitor their situation and report on any new events we may receive. Thank you for joining us today. More to come very, very soon. Have a good day.